Hey friends, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a mid-year check-in. Today is June 30th, which means we're officially one half of the way through the year, which is so crazy to me. I cannot even believe it. I have been wanting just to do a little cozy sit down chat with you about my reading life this year, kind of what it's been like, maybe talk about a couple of my favorite books, all the things. So grab a blanket, grab a drink, let's get cozy and chat about books. If you're new here, my name is Shelby. I love to read. I love to share all the cozy, bookish, homey things with you, and I'm really glad that you're here. So thank you for clicking on today's video. I'm gonna start out talking about what my reading has been like so far this year. I started the year off with a goal of reading 50 books. If you didn't know, a couple years ago I read like 96 books in a year, which was the most books I had ever read in my life, honestly, in one calendar year. But I realized in the following year, when I was reevaluating my goals for that year, that I was reading a lot, but I wasn't reading a lot of quality books, and it really kind of shifted my perspective as far as wanting to find those books that just feel like me. And that meant kind of slowing down and really trying to think and articulate the types of books that I love to read and the reasons why I don't love certain books as well. I really wanted to start reading for me, whether that was a popular book that really worked for me, or maybe it's reading books that I have never seen anyone talking about before that just have really resonated with me. I want to find more of those hidden gems, and so that's kind of what my mindset has been like the last couple of years as far as reading. And actually last year I didn't set a goal at all because I wanted to focus more on that type of book versus a number goal. And this year I decided, you know, I've really honed in on my taste and I've really figured out what it is I love in books and what it is that I don't love. So I'm gonna set an actual number goal this year just for funsies, and I am like right at the goal. So I believe I've read 25 books. I'm reading like right on track with my goal, which is awesome. I have had a few months where I have read 5+ books in the month. I have had some months where I have hardly read anything at all. And either way, I feel like I've really gotten to a point where I am okay with not reading as much as a lot of other people are. And reading should never be a comparison game, but it can definitely be hard to not compare, to feel like maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe I am missing out on something. When I really think about my goals of reading quality, of reading the things that I love, also giving myself the margin to be really present in my life, and when I have busy seasons and reading kind of takes a back seat, like that is okay. I guess I'll talk about the books I really discovered that I've loved, or I guess the quality things that are inside the books that I love. I really love a character-driven story. I love there to be a plot or something that is driving the book forward, but I have to really care about why the plot is happening. And if it's only plot with no characters, then I don't really care. I kind of want the characters to feel like real people and to feel like they are working on something tangible, or they're trying to figure out something about themselves. I want to see that character development, and a lot of the times my favorite books end up being the really sad ones, to be honest with you, the devastating ones, because the things that these characters have to deal with in this story is just so impactful that it causes me to feel super connected to them. And those are like the things that I have loved in books. All right, let's look at my reading journal really quick. So this is my reading journal. It is so great because the paper is water paper quality, so the markers and stuff don't bleed through, and it is awesome. This clip marks last year's, and then this is this year's cover page. Then I've got a reading log. I am just writing down every book as I finish them, name, author, and my star rating. On the next page, I've got a bingo card. I have a from my library, where people who are borrowing my books, I'll write it in there and the date that they have it, and then I'll check it once I get the book back. On this page, I have every audiobook that I have read this year, and on this page are all my 5-star reads. I then have a list of classics that I would love to read this year, and it's halfway through the year, and I have read how many? 0. I have read 0 classics. So I need to work on that. Then this is some new releases that I'm interested in, the date that they're coming out, and if I have them or not. This is an author backlog. I'm sort of keeping up with this, sort of not. I'm reading a lot of Stephen King this year so far, and I have not written all the books that I have under his name, so it's kind of hard to keep up with. Then I have the A to Z challenge, which is kind of fun. Like, I didn't go about the year planning to finish this, but I put it in here because I was like, if I read any of these books, that'll be kind of fun to write it in. The next page is a bookshelf log, color coded. Then I have Around the World. This is inspired by Emma. She has a book club for reading around the world, and every month they choose a different country. I am very inspired to read that, but it's hard to, again, it's hard to do when you're a mood reader. So I just made my own log, and when I read books that are from other countries, then I write them in here. The criteria for me is that the author has to be from the country that it's written about. So most recently I finished One Golden Summer. It takes place in Canada and the author is from Canada. So I was able to log Canada in this. These are just some goals I have written down at the beginning of the year. I have no reading number goal. Well, then I set it to 50. So I kind of scrapped that one. I have DNF early and without regret. So if I'm reading something that's not working, just go ahead and DNF it, get it out of the way. Then I have lean into preferred genres, which I really have been doing. My preferred genres are historical fiction mostly, other than when I'm in a random mood for thrillers and romance. And then I had read 5-star predictions. I feel like I've been doing pretty good about that as well. Like, actually picking up the books that I'm highly anticipating instead of pushing them off and never reading them. I have write more reviews. This is one that I need to work on. Some books I read and I've enjoyed, but I don't necessarily feel a need to write a full-fledged review, and some of them I do. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. I have a write in my reading journal for books that need to be contemplated. Now, at the back of this, there's a section where I literally, it's called my messy reading thoughts, where if I'm reading something that's a little bit deeper, then I kind of just write the name of the book at the top of the page, and whenever I need to kind of pause and simmer on what I've read, then I kind of journal my thoughts about the book, and then I have kind of a log of thoughts that I had about that book along the way. It says figure out reading routines. This is something that is constantly ebbing and flowing. When I have slower weeks, then I can read a lot more, obviously. When I have busier weeks, I have to really be intentional with reading, and honestly, a lot of that just looks like putting my phone away more than I need to be on it. And then it says romanticize reading when I can. I love doing this. This is not something that's usually that hard for me, but sometimes I do need a reminder. And then listen to more memoirs on audio. I have been doing that and listening to nonfiction specifically on audio. I've really been enjoying that. On this page, I've got all the books that I have on my Kindle. And then this is my DNF list. This is my monthly tracker. So it's basically like the log at the beginning of this, except I just write what books I finished in each month. I have a book of the year bracket. On this page, I just made a beach TBR for a few months ago. And then on this page, I have summer reading. For me, I'm counting that as May through July. So I'm just keeping log of everything that I've read this summer. That is all my reading journal. Now, I think that I'm gonna talk about my top 5 books that I have read so far this year. I looked at this list of all the 25 books I've read so far. I was very pleased because in general, I have really enjoyed almost all of them. And it was hard to kind of narrow down how I was gonna decide which 5 I wanted to talk about. I think it's awesome that some YouTubers talk about every single book that they've read so far, but to me, that seemed a little bit overwhelming, and I didn't want to leave you with a incredibly long video, so I'm just gonna talk about 5 and give a little synopsis and my rating of them. So let's get into it. All right, first of all, we have The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. Set in 1790s Maine, Martha Ballard is a midwife. She's a wife to her husband and a mother to their 4 grown children. The book starts out with a body being found in the town that she lives in, and Martha is tasked with doing the autopsy report, and she also has to identify the body. A devastating assault happened a few months ago to a young woman in this town, And throughout this time, Martha has been providing care for this young woman and other women like her as well, not just, you know, delivering the babies. Now that this body is found though, there's a mystery to be solved, and all the people in the town are kind of wondering what has been going on. Was the murdered man an active part of this assault that happened? Where and how will justice prevail? Contrary to popular belief, midwives, especially back then, did a whole lot more than just delivering the babies. They essentially were the town doctors, and they knew everything that there was to know about health and wellness and what it means to have compassionate relationships with their patients. I really loved this one because you get a ton of character work with Martha and the people in the town. There's also a legal battle of sorts because, you know, in the 1790s, they didn't have as much figured out as far as the judicial system. Now, I'm not saying our judicial system is 100% perfect, but back then it just was so different because the country was so new, and especially the view that society had on women back then was just extremely heartbreaking. So if you love a, for lack of a better term, like female empowerment / strong women stories and, you know, social justice and all those things, I feel like you're gonna really like this one. Now, this is very hard-hitting. There is a very tragic scene that is described in this book because of the court that happens where the person basically has to give witness to what happened to them. And so I say go into this hesitantly, look up trigger warnings, but it was so beautiful and redemptive, and I thought that it was told really well. Next we've got We Solve Murders by Richard Osman, and I actually do own this book, but someone is borrowing it right now, so I don't have it to show you. Steve Wheeler is a retired detective. He's just trying to lay low in his small nobody town and enjoy retirement. His daughter, named Amy, works in private security, and she has suddenly called him up to ask a favor. A dead body has shown up on the remote island that she currently works at as she is protecting a famous writer. She doesn't really know who else to turn to other than her beloved father-in-law, who was known for cracking all the hardest cases. This book is fast-paced and quick-witted, and it's both parts action-packed but also endearing as the characters travel the globe trying to solve a murder that is much more than meets the eye. This is a story of conspiracy, of a worldwide organization doing things that people shouldn't be doing, of how one person stumbling across something that they shouldn't have turned into this whole race against time around the world, and I really loved it. It was a great book. It was greatly entertaining. It was a great book for honestly any time of year, but I feel like the travel aspect specifically reminds me of summer, so if you need a suggestion, I recommend it for the summer. Next we've got Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. This is about Bill Hodges. He's stuck in a loophole of watching TV in his recliner, drinking too much liquor and toying around with his father's gun, thinking of ending things. He's retired from his detective work, but one case still haunts him, the case of the Mercedes killer. During this 2008 crash, someone stole a Mercedes sedan and drove at full force in a waiting crowd at a job fair. Several dead and injured were only some of the repercussions of this tragic event. Bill is known for always solving the hardest cases, but he could never find the person responsible for this horrific mass murder. Then he receives a letter from the person claiming to be responsible. Bill has a reason to live again, find the killer, and bring him to justice. This book is so good. It's the first book in a trilogy. I'm currently reading the last book in this trilogy, and every single one of them has been so good. I've never actually picked up a series and finished it before. I love this. It gives me all the things that I look for in books now, which is the character development, but also the plot, and the plot intertwining with the things that the characters are having to work on and vice versa. It is super well written and well done, and Stephen King has this way of writing that is a little bit literary fiction, but it's still engaging in a way where you just can't put it down. Like, I fly through the pages of these books. Highly recommend. Next we have Summer Romance by Annabel Monaghan. You know I'm not the biggest contemporary romance reader, but I just love this book so much. This really worked for me. and I want to read more of her work, and I think that she did such a good job of packing so much into a short book. These are only like 318 pages. 318 pages, so you get a quick, fun romance, but also not hard-hitting. The characters just have things to go through, which is a theme that you're gonna see in all these books so far. So this is my synopsis that I wrote of summer romance. Alice can't catch a break. Her husband left her and her mom has died. She's trying to stay on top of cleaning her house, doing her job, and mothering her children. Alice might be a professional organizer, but her life feels far from the one she tries to encourage others to take in their homes. She's disheveled and hates that she feels that way. She decides she's going to put real pants on for once and move on with her life. No one is more surprised than Alice when the first time she goes out in public with real pants on, a cute guy almost falls into her lap. Maybe a summer fling is just what she needs right now, and nothing more than that. Just read it. It's really good. It's really good. The last book I'm gonna talk about is a book that I actually read on audiobook, and it is The Third Gilmore Girl by Carley Bishop. I loved this narration so much. Carley Bishop narrated it herself, so it was just phenomenal. It was so entertaining to listen to. This is my synopsis of it. Carley Bishop recounts the story of her life on this funny, sincere, entertaining memoir. From the tragedies of her family life growing up to the joys of playing the role Emily Gilmore, we see a full picture of what she loves to do and how she got there. The audiobook was phenomenal. And it really was like, I feel like people who love Gilmore Girls are obviously gonna get so much out of this one, but even if you don't love Gilmore Girls, it was just so good. If you love Broadway and theater and just the whole world of acting, I think you're gonna love it. And even she kind of exposes like some of the dark sides of that whole side of Hollywood, which none of us should be surprised about at this point. But I think she really focused on her love for the art of acting in all these different ways more than she focused on the business side of acting, if that makes any sense. And I really loved that. You could just tell that she is super passionate about what she does. All right, now I want to talk about 5 books that I am prioritizing for the rest of the year. Some of these I've had on my shelf for a while. Some of them I haven't had for a while, but I have wanted to read them. Mostly I just need to stop avoiding these and get them out of the way. So first up, we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This book is so stunning. I got this version for my birthday. I love the gold foiling and the picture on the front. Inside the cover looks like this, and I believe there's illustrations. There's illustrations like this that are colored. There's also some black and white illustrations. I grew up watching the super old Little Women movie, and I believe my mom might have read the book out loud to me before, but I've never read it as an adult, and I've always wanted to. I just know I'm gonna love it. For some reason though, with being a mood reader, it can be really hard to pick something up that I know I'm gonna really love, especially if it feels seasonal, and I feel like this is gonna be a good fall winter read for me. I know it goes through all different seasons, but something about that, like the coziness of a chilly evening by some candlelight or a fire, like that sounds like the perfect environment to read this book. And so I'm prioritizing it for the end of this year, and I'm very excited. Next up, we have Lessons in Chemistry. This is by Bonnie Garmis. This is the UK edition. I don't really love the American cover, but this UK edition was in my local used bookstore a few months ago. I actually have started reading this on audiobook when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it. And especially diving more into my preferred genre of historical fiction, I really want to read this. I believe this takes place in the 50s, 60s, early 60s. It's about a woman in chemistry and science during the 60s, which was very countercultural back then. So I'm very interested to read this, and I need to just stop putting it off because I have a feeling I'm gonna love it. Next we have Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. This is a historical fiction. It takes place in 1853. It is during the wagon train movement era. I don't know what word is correct there, but the wagon trains that moved across America. I have never read anything during this time period before, but I really wanted to. I heard so many good things about this, and I have loved What the Wind Knows. I read What the Wind Knows by this author and was obsessed with her writing style. I thought that it was so beautiful, and so This book I actually had on my Kindle. I read a few pages of it and I knew I'm gonna want this physically. I just have a feeling I'm gonna be marking it up. So I need to get to this one. I know I'm gonna love that one. Next we have Rules of Civility by Immortals. If you didn't know, if you've watched 0 of my videos, I talk about this, I feel like every single video in some capacity, but my favorite book probably ever is A Gentleman in Moscow by Immortals. I have read it twice and it's probably gonna be a book that I reread every couple of years. I love that book for so many reasons. I feel like I could do a whole video just talking about that book, but I really want to read more of his writing. I have this one and I also have the Lincoln Highway, but I really want to prioritize this one this year. I think it starts out New Year's Eve. It starts out New Year's Eve of 1937. It's gonna be a New York setting, New Year's Eve, winter time, and I think it's gonna be Great Gatsby-esque, so I'm excited to get into this. I say this about all of them. I know I'm gonna love it. I just need to quit putting it off and actually read it. Finally, I have a very ambitious read, which is The Stand by Stephen King. All right, I am a historical fiction girly plus Stephen King. Stephen King might be my favorite author, to be honest with you. I feel like I could do a whole video talking about that as well. There are so many things that I love about his writing that I did not expect. I have not delved into some of his books, but from all of them, the thing that I love the most is how he can create such intricate, in-depth characters that are morally gray. You root for them, you see them make mistakes and learn from them and move on or not move on. And either way, you deal with the repercussions of your actions. And so I think that he is just brilliant because he gives you such in-depth characters while also giving you intriguing plot and something that you can't put down. And I've never read anything like his books before, but The Stand is like everyone's favorite Stephen King book. I'm very intimidated by this because if you can't tell, this is a chunker. This one is 1,150 pages. This one's apparently the extended edition or the revised edition where he kind of, I guess when he first wrote the book, it says in the preface that he was asked to remove 400 pages of the story because of the cost that it was going to be for the publishers to publish it. And then 15-20 years later, he kind of did a revised edition where he added some of that stuff back in. So it's the same story, just with some extra things in there. And this is a very big book. This might be the biggest book I've ever read. This is very ambitious. Last year I read 11/22/63 during the month of November. That book does not feel as long as it is. I think that one's also about 1,000 pages. So I know I'm gonna love it, but just looking at the size, every now and then I just get this itch to pick up a big chunky book. Usually that's in the fall and the winter time, I can't lie. During the summer, I want to read something quick. I want to be entertained. I still want the character development, but I just don't have the mental capacity to pick up something this large. So this is gonna be a later in the year read for me, unless I just get the itch to pick it up. I'm about to finish End of Watch by Stephen King, which is the 3rd book in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. I have a feeling that the next Stephen King I'm gonna pick up is probably gonna be The Stand. I apologize, the lighting's getting a little bit dark, but it's probably gonna be The Stand. I think I've read 3 or 4 Stephen King so far this year. There's always gonna be a Stephen King book to read. I'm probably gonna take a break from Stephen King for a while, read some other things, and then in the fall pick up The Stand, and I'm very excited to read that. So this has been my rambly mid-year catch-up, kind of where I'm at with all my reading. I hope that you enjoyed, and thank you for being here. Let me know in the comments what you're reading this summer, what is your favorite book that you've read so far this year, and what's maybe a controversial book opinion that you have. I would love to know in the comments, so can't wait to chat with you there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.